Penguin Random House Audio presents The Cyber Effect. A pioneering cyberpsychologist explains how human behavior changes online. By Mary Aiken, Ph.D. Read for you by Rachel Fulginiti. Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future. John F. Kennedy. Prologue. When Humans and Technology Collide. I am sitting on a hard, cold bench. My back is against a concrete wall in a police briefing room somewhere in South Los Angeles, in a neighborhood known for gangs, crime, poverty, urban decay, and, 20 years ago, brutal race riots. It is 4:45 in the morning. I haven't eaten anything for hours. Not a wise move. My stomach is churning, a combination of hunger, jet lag, and apprehension. LAPD Lieutenant Andrea Grossman begins the police briefing and explains how, in an hour or so, a special task force will be arresting the biggest human trafficker in the United States and one of California's most wanted. About 40 law enforcement officers will be involved in the operation, a team of experienced professionals pulled from the FBI, Homeland Security, Internet Crimes Against Children, ICAC, the California State Police, and the LAPD. And then there's me, the one person at the briefing without a gun. Only sworn officers are allowed to carry them. Back in Ireland, where I'm from, it is rainy. The spring drags on, gray and wet. I think about my cozy office in Dublin, my library, my desktop computer, and my quiet academic life. Except my life is not so quiet lately. Over the past decade, while establishing myself as a forensic cyberpsychologist, I have traveled the world to meet with other experts in my field, conducted research, worked with law enforcement, attended conferences, and given hundreds of talks, seminars, workshops, and presentations. The field of cyberpsychology is new and still emerging, and each year it draws more interest. The sense of urgency is escalating. I think most of us who work on the front lines can feel it, along with a profound sense of loss of control. Our lives are changing, and human behavior is evolving. As a cyber behavioral scientist, I believe this is because people behave differently when they are interacting with technology than they do in the face-to-face real world. Some changes have occurred so quickly that it has become difficult to tell the difference between passing trends, still evolving behavior, and something that's already become an acceptable social norm. In this book, to make things simpler, I will be referring to face-to-face reality as real life, or the real world, to set it apart from cyberspace, although I am fully aware that what happens there can be as real as anything. New norms created online can migrate to real life, so what happens in the virtual world affects the real world, and vice versa. Whenever I am asked to talk about my work, I start off with the formal definition. Cyberpsychology is the study of the impact of emerging technology on human behavior. It's not just a case of being online or offline. Cyber refers to anything digital, anything tech, from Bluetooth to driverless cars. That means I study human interactions with technology and digital media, mobile and network devices, gaming, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, AI, intelligence amplification, IA, anything from cell phones to cyborgs. But mostly I concentrate on internet psychology. If something qualifies as technology and has the potential to impact or change human behavior, I want to look at how, and consider why. Time is not on my side. My work is always in a race with technology. This presents a major challenge to how academics normally study a phenomenon. As scientists, how can we possibly keep pace with the tech changes we are seeing in our lives, in our behavior, and in our society? A good longitudinal study, which looks at human behavior over time and allows a researcher to make conclusive scientific statements, can take anywhere from a couple of years to a few decades. That's several lifetimes in tech terms. And given what I've seen already, particularly the new norms that are rapidly being created due to an accelerated form of socialization that I call cybersocialization, I don't think we should sit around waiting for answers. The good news. Some aspects of Internet psychology have been studied since the 1990s and are well known and documented. The effect of anonymity online, or perceived anonymity, is one example. It's the modern-day equivalent of that superhero power, invisibility. The subject of some fascinating studies across many disciplines, anonymity has an impact that cannot be underestimated. It also fuels online disinhibition, another important contributor to other effects. I have been involved in a dozen different research silos and have studied everything from organized cybercrime to cyberchondria, health anxiety facilitated and amplified by doing online medical searches, and the one thing I have observed over and over again is that human behavior is often amplified and accelerated online by what I believe to be an almost predictable mathematical multiplier, the cyber effect, the E equals MC squared of this century. Altruism, for example, is amplified online, which means that people can be more generous and giving in cyberspace than they are face-to-face. We see this phenomenon in the extraordinary growth of nonprofit crowdfunding online. Another known effect of cyberspace is that people can be more trusting of others they encounter online and can disclose information more quickly. This leads to faster friendships and quicker intimacy, but it also means that people tend to feel safe when they aren't. Due to online disinhibition effect, ODE, individuals can be bolder, less inhibited, and judgment impaired, almost as if they were drunk. And in this less inhibited state, like-minded people can find one another instantly and easily under a cloak of anonymity, which results in another effect, online syndication. I will explain these cyber constructs and effects in detail in this book, and they are described in a glossary of terms, but ultimately they will be fully understood and evaluated only by empirical science, by undertaking intensive experimental studies, manipulating variables, and identifying cause and effect. But cyber isn't a lab with white mice and levers. We are talking about a complex matrix of human data that is manifested in a virtual context. It involves painstaking digital forensic and cyber behavioral detail. There is an expression, God is in the details, that resonates with my work. Forensic science is the study of the physical evidence at the crime scene, fibers or bodily fluids or fingerprints. In TV terms, think CSI. Forensic psychology is the study of the behavioral evidence left behind at the crime scene, what we like to call the blood spatter of the mind. Then there's my area, forensic cyberpsychology, which focuses on the cyber behavioral evidence of a crime scene, or, as I like to think of it, the cyber footprint. It was the great forensics pioneer Edmond Locard, sometimes called the Sherlock Holmes of France, whose exchange principle put forth the basic premise of forensic science. Every contact leaves a trace. This is just as true in cyberspace. Almost everything we do online generates digital exhaust, digital dust, and digital prints. This digital evidence can help law enforcement investigate criminal behavior, whether the crimes take place in cyberspace, across the world, or down the street. It was the pursuit of that kind of data that led me to Los Angeles. I was conducting a study with the specialists group at Interpol, the world's largest international police organization, about youth risk-taking online, and, hoping to accumulate data, I got in touch with Lieutenant Grossman at the LAPD. We had met previously at a conference at the Interpol headquarters in Lyon, France. I'd been impressed by Lieutenant Grossman and her work in the field of cybercrime. When she agreed to see me and discuss the Interpol project, I flew to California to meet her team. Police can be very skeptical about academics descending from their ivory tower who are hungry for data but have very little understanding of the nitty-gritty nature of frontline law enforcement. So I was pleased that Lieutenant Grossman asked if I'd be interested in getting some work experience with the LAPD. Of course, I replied, assuming that she was talking about a type of internship at her police precinct, where I would sit in on meetings. but she had something a little more proactive in mind. "How would you like to suit up and come on an operation?" she asked, going.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?